friends, so today we're using colored pencils to finish our butterfly drawing, and I just wanted to point out to you one more time how great these look. These pencils have been sharpened. I mean, check it out. They're all in great shape. One that may stand out to you, I don't know if it does or it doesn't. This is called a colorless colored pencil, and it is because it's a blender. So I'll talk more about this later, but these are something you might want to buy. They're really great. They're great for mixing two colors together. So I'll put this aside for just a couple of minutes. So you want to have your extra paper handy. This is the same exact type of paper I use for my art lessons, but I cut it into smaller pieces. This is just going to be some scrap paper for testing colors on later. So it's the same paper as this. I've got my manual pencil sharpener ready, and I'm just going to set this colorless one aside. So this butterfly is so pretty. It's such a fun drawing. And what we're going to do to get started is think about what colors we want to choose. Now, first of all, this is pretty much an imaginary butterfly, guys. You can make it any color you want. I mean, if you want it to be a rainbow butterfly, that sounds fantastic to me. But if you want it to be a certain type of butterfly, you're welcome to look at some of the examples I have in the art lesson. I have several examples from calendars and different things I've collected over the years to give you some inspiration. But for today, I'm going to make this sort of like a blue-green butterfly because I think that's really pretty. So I'm going to start with the butterfly's body, and what I want to do is I want to find a nice dark blue. And so that's what I mean about testing colors. So this says blue. Okay, great. So let's just test that out. So yeah, that's a really nice deep dark blue. It's almost a purple though. So I'm going to set that aside. I know what color that is now. So I'm going to look at this one now. This one actually says purple. Let's see. It's almost the same, guys. It's just a tiny bit different. That's why you have to test your colors out. See, they look very similar, but they're just a tiny bit different. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look for another purple. I just want to see how purple it is. It's a little bit more violet, meaning it's got a little bit more red in there. Well, those are great things to get started, but I also want to make sure I have a lighter color. So I'm going to go ahead and test this one. What do you think? It's almost like a purple again, but it's a little more blue. I have this one. This is definitely more blue. So testing colors is really, really important. Now that I have kind of an idea of what I'm working with, I'm going to just put these aside for a few minutes, and I'm going to take out the darkest one I have, which is gonna be this one. See, I have to read it myself. There it is, it's blue. So I'm gonna start where the butterfly's wings connect to its body. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm not pressing super hard, but do you see how I'm kind of going sort of out in a fan-like direction? I'm not gonna do the entire thing in real time. I'm going to do some in time lapse, but I just wanted to show you before we get started with a time lapse, that is, how I'm kind of starting with these sort of fan-like shapes. So starting basically at the edges, and I'm going out. The other thing you want to consider is adding the same type of thing in each one of these little nooks and crannies. So one of the things about a butterfly that's so nice is you get all these little compartments. And each one of these is a great place for shading. And colored pencils are wonderful for coloring small areas, which we have lots of those in this drawing, and for shading. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some of this deeper blue in some of these little compartments. And you notice I'm not filling it all the way up. Definitely not filling it up. So I am just taking my time. I'm also not pressing really hard, guys. This is not a time to bear down on the pencil and press really hard. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of adding a little bit of gentle pressure until I have added some of that blue in all the sections. It already looks super, super cool. So now I'm going to take another color. I think I want to stay with blue, so I'm going to test this out. This is definitely a lighter blue. And so I'm just going to overlap. So this is the other thing I think a lot of people get confused about with pencils and shading is we're overlapping. I'm going right over that darker color, but I'm now going towards the end. So I'm kind of filling up the end here. And I'm just making this wonderful layer. And as you can see, it goes from darker to lighter. But I want a little bit more than that. I don't want it to just be those colors. So I'm going to take this sort of interesting sort of seafoam green color. It's called Aqua. And I'm going to overlap it just a little with this to see what it looks like. And yeah, I really like how that looks. So I'm going to do this gently. I'm not pressing really hard. Again, this is all about layers. Remember, colored pencils are made with wax. And the wax is the material that lets your colors blend together. And so what we're doing is we're creating this lovely layered effect. Well, this is what we're going to go for on all the compartments of the wings. So I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. I also want to make sure that my butterfly's body is nice and dark. And so although we're doing it very lightly and gently on the wings, I want you to think about adding a little bit of pressure now on the body and the head of this creature. So I'm going to press kind of hard now. You can see how different that is. I'm going to press a little bit harder all around the eye. And I'm going to press a little bit harder on the belly and along the bottom of the legs. And so I'm not trying to blend right now. What I'm doing is I'm creating like sort of a deep color here. When I say deep, I mean like it's a really rich, intense color. Look at the difference in color. Same color, it's just I'm pressed a lot harder on the body. All right, guys, so I'm going to do the same thing with my other colors on my wings. I'm going to use the same lighter blue, but I am pressing quite a bit harder. And I am overlapping those colors, but I'm pressing quite a bit harder. And so what we're getting is we're getting two different kinds of effects here. And we're going to be doing that over and over again in this drawing. So in some areas, you're going to do a super light and layered effect. In other areas, you're pressing quite a bit harder to create a really dense and rich, like bold color. And I think you can see what I'm talking about. All right, guys, without further ado, I'm going to get right into time lapse, and then I'll come back and do a conclusion. Here we go. Wow, guys, so that took a lot of effort, but boy, it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? So I just wanted to point out to you a couple of things. So the colorless blender, you don't have to have this, but it's just really cool to have. And so what it does is it has a layer of uncolored wax in this pencil. My tip just broke off. That's why you need to have your handy dandy manual pencil sharpener nearby. Sometimes the electric pencil sharpener, even the one made for colored pencils, it seems cool, but it makes the tip kind of pointy and long and fragile. And when you have to bear down on it, it doesn't necessarily always work the way you want it to. So what this does is it blends your colors together, and it's just kind of a subtle and soft thing. It's not supposed to be a really, super bold thing, but what it does is it brings another layer of wax into the drawing, and that makes the colors kind of mix together. So it's a nice element. So I'll just do a little bit here to show you what I mean. It's kind of cool. I'm going to do it on the flower, but you can use it on the whole thing if you want to. And so it's just kind of blurs those lines a little bit. Sometimes with colored pencils, you get lines and more lines and more lines. And what this does is it just kind of adds wax and it takes away some of those lines. And I think you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. The thing about colored pencils is you need a lot of patience because it just takes time. But boy, does it show up and look great. So I'm pressing down pretty hard with my colorless blender, and I'm using it to mix these colors together. And so I'll just show you what that looks like. Also, you can do this to the whole thing if you want to. I'm not going to do it right now. But it does make it look pretty great. Okay? So the other thing you can think about is your black Sharpie. So a lot of times I've said in the past, like oil pastel and watercolor paint and things like that, they don't mix with your Sharpie. But what's really cool about this is the Sharpie is not having a problem with the colored pencil. So if your lines get a little bit lost from coloring, which happens sometimes, you can just go back over your lines with your Sharpie, and this is one of those times when it's okay. And sometimes it's just a really nice way to make all these wonderful lines stand out again. So you don't have to do every single line. Sometimes that would just be too much, but every once in a while there's just like a time when it makes sense to do just some of the lines. So I'm going to just do a little bit on the legs here just to show you what I mean. You might notice that the legs have some white spots showing. Those are reflection marks. And so even though the legs are black, you don't have to do the entire leg in absolute black either. You can just have some areas, and it makes it look like it's, just kind of cool, like it's designed to be that way. All right, guys, that is it for today. This is such a pretty drawing. It's so much fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did, and I look forward to seeing your artwork examples as well. Whether it's in after-school art or if you email me, your parents can email me examples or photographs of your work. I'd love to see it. Thanks so much, friends. I'll see you next time.